Hey, I wanted to share with you an excerpt from another conversation I had with Dr. Jan Bonhoeffer, who is a professor of pediatrics and infectious disease at the University Hospital in Basel and also a pediatric physician in private practice. We're going to talk in this little excerpt you'll hear, we're going to talk about who you can trust. Like these days during the pandemic, who can you trust for information? We all know by now that we're facing this infectious disease, coronavirus, a virus that can be passed on from one person to another. But there's actually another kind of pandemic running at the same time, which is also infectious, which is a disease of misinformation. And so these days, we're faced with multiple different narratives, particularly in America. What's really going on? Who's lying to us? Who's not? And this creates just as much dis-ease of a different kind as the original virus itself. In this excerpt, I'm going to ask Dr. Bonhoeffer to reflect on his experience of working as a consultant within the World Health Organization, the Centers for Disease Control, Johns Hopkins, and et cetera. One of the ways we got bogged down in so much false information is there has, from various ways, we've been taught that you can't trust the people that used to be the authorities that everybody went to as the authorities on infectious disease, the World Health Organization, the Centers for Disease Control, Johns Hopkins, etc. So I see frequently on my feed, people go, oh, you can't trust WHO. And of course, that's been our king in America has been spreading this as well. So here is Dr. Jan Bonhoeffer, a world-recognized expert in infectious disease who's been consulted with the WHO and the CDC. And I want to ask you a little bit, Jan, to tell us, you know a lot of people inside the WHO, you know a lot of people at the CDC, you've worked with other organizations too. So what are the people like who you have contact with who are actually make up these organizations?
Wow, that's a difficult and very big question.
Yeah.
So I think it's good that you're making a difference between the organization and the people within the organization.
Right.
So trusting an organization to me is a very different question to trusting the people within, and then it depends on who. So the World Health Organization is an extremely necessary, helpful, and in many ways reliable organization as it is, as an organization, functioning as an organization. And the same is true for CDC. I would like to see a world without the Centers of Disease Control, particularly in the US, reaching way beyond the US. Now, these organizations live from the people that are within this organization. So they make this organization alive, and that's who we get to see. If we're not working with the people, but we're hearing kind of in the news or we're hearing in the radio, then we see individuals. And what I know from working with people in these organizations is that they have a role, they have a professional role to play. They have to represent the organization that they're living in. So in a way, there is a professional requirement on them to represent the organization. And then they're individuals too. So they represent this organization very different, or these organizations in their own very personal way. I have not met people who, disseminate information willfully against their beliefs or, have some idea to change the truth to that it fits or meets. I haven't seen this. What I have seen is people who are working extremely hard to come into terms with really complicated issues. And, it's a little bit when you drive a car and you look through the front front window, that's one way to see the world. And when you look into your rear mirror, that's a very different way to see the world. And often when people are judgmental about those who actually drive the car and actually try to make decisions looking forward, they have the advantage of looking backwards. And it's very easy to criticize, from a rear mirror perspective. It is a very different experience to really be there and make decisions while looking out there and trying to steer a car into a very uncertain field. Look at coronavirus. The people working in public health, they had very little information at hand, and then very questionable information at hand. And then now you need to make decisions for a population that you don't know what the effect is going to be on. So what I see is people who are really committed to do their best and to give their best. They're coming from their families, they're leaving their families, they go to office and try and deliver their best. Yeah. That's really what I've seen. Now, yes, obviously, they're humans too. They make mistakes, they make misjudgments, they make wrong calls, they make like every other human being. And we see this on all levels. We see this from all the very famous academic virologists. We've seen this from all the very famous people in public health, in politics, on all levels. And we see, I guess everybody sees this in their own families. So pointing fingers, not so helpful.
I know another organization you have worked with in the past is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, right? Sure. So I don't know exactly who specifically you had contact with there, whether it was Bill Gates himself or whatever. But for whatever reason, and I'm not going to comment on the validity or otherwise, but for whatever reason, since this pandemic has broken out, there is a huge amount of attention focused on Bill Gates, like he's the kind of Darth Vader of the modern world. Now, I don't know, but what's your impression of the reliability, benevolent or malicious of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or the people that work there?
I have only seen deeply benevolent attitude there. Really committed people. The fundamental intention of the Gates Foundation, if you want to bring it down, and of course I can't speak for them, but if you want to boil it down, that there's somebody who was able to bring a computer in every home, and then sincerely inquired with the best people possible how to contribute beyond this in a similarly effective way. And the advice, long story short, was, vaccines is actually one way to really contribute to the good and the benefit of the world, of our population. And this was the decision made, and this was the basic intention behind the Gates Foundation and the vaccine programs, let's say. And there are many more now. So there is a whole organization available. There's an infrastructure available. There is a global interaction between global key players available to really bring a change. So if really there's a sincere intention to develop a vaccine that could protect people and provide immunity, then to me, this is a no-brainer that such an organization with such possibilities gets behind this. And is part of a global effort getting behind this. And this is what we see a lot of public-private partnerships now, not only in the Gates Foundation, we see other public-private partnerships, but certainly the Gates Foundation is one of the strongest ones available. And it just totally makes sense that they're engaging in this effort.
Well, let me zone in a little bit more, because I want to ask you something. I made a video on Facebook a week ago or so about othering. Othering means the way that we tend to demonize people we don't know. So I gave the example that, if you go to Greece, well, we've both been in Greece, the Greeks tend to distrust Turkish people. Just anybody, if anyone's just Turkish, they probably are a crook, but just because they're Turkish. And the Turkish people tend to distrust the Greeks as lazy. And this is kind of prejudice, You also get prejudice. You get prejudice all over the place, where just because somebody is a certain way and you don't know that group now is not trustworthy. And one of the ways we do this is we have tremendous economic imbalance in the world, which I think most people would agree is not, not everybody, but most people agree that's not a good thing. Some people have got a lot of money and power. Some people have got not so much. And, any movement towards socialism or the incorporation of socialist values will try to address that. But what happens is, because of the othering, because people who don't have so much don't meet the people who've got a lot, now it's not just an imbalance of power created by greed. It's actually these people are evil and trying to destroy us, right? Now, what you may or may not have seen, depending on who's on your feed, a lot of people these days are focusing specifically onto Bill Gates as evil. And that seems to me, I don't know, but it appears to be an example of othering. Like, I don't know the guy, I've never met the guy. He's, we just get rid of him. We do this a lot. So what I'm asking you specifically, from everything you've seen, because you've actually had some contact with this organization, the people within it, is that, do you feel people have any, just based on whatever contact you've had, what is your impression of Bill Gates as a person? Because you can't imagine how much is being focused onto this guy right now. And I'm just wondering, is this really a good focus for our attention? I don't know.
I'm in no position to comment on Bill Gates as a person, as I haven't met him in person. And
okay.
I'm in no
You've met Belinda? You've met Belinda or not?
No. But okay. I met with many people from the Gates Foundation.
Yeah.
And all I can tell you is that these are human beings like you and I, really dedicated, carefully selected, and really dedicated to serve the purpose of the foundation. And if you look at what the foundation does, look at the outcomes, look at what they create. And then I want to see anybody saying that this is, there's anything mean. I mean, this is just fundamentally dedicated to improving the well-being of humanity. I have no...
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't know. I don't know. What I do know is people tend to project onto people they don't know. I'm not sitting here going, with any agenda about any of this. I would just like to help people to reduce their prejudice unnecessarily. One last question.
I heard a statement, and I forgot by whom it was, but it was deeply impressive. Yeah. Somebody who sticks their head out actually, and really tries to bring about a change. Right. Said, "I'm only willing to accept criticism by somebody who does the same." It was somebody who speaks on TED, I think. Yeah. Somebody giving TED Talks. Yeah. And other people were like poo-pooing the TED Talk, saying that somehow something wasn't up to their liking. Okay. And that person said, I'm happy to accept criticism from those who have given TED Talks.
Okay, great, brilliant. Yeah.
So basically, sitting in the lounge somewhere, or sitting at home in front of the TV, and then thinking about what kind of conspiracy or evil could be behind. It's just, go get there, talk to the people, go get there, do the same, try the same, stick your head out, and then let's talk again.
Yeah, brilliant. So just in summary, because there's one other category that is putting out a lot of information that we have to decide how much to listen to. You live in Switzerland, so you're somewhat immune to, you're in Switzerland, you're another country. So, and you can answer this question or not as you like, right? But I think it would be a useful question to ask. Looking from the outside at America, what is your impression of how the Trump administration has dealt with all this?
Oh, this is like, there used to be a BBC series called Hard Talk. It is like Hard Talk.
As an epidemiologist, do you feel that the American government has been reliable and trustworthy in the way they've handled this? And you don't have to answer if you don't want to.
I'm not sure if I'm in a position to actually do that, because I really haven't. Right. Actually, I should, take myself to the standards I was just setting. I haven't been there, talked to them. I was not at CDC. I was not really intimately involved with the government. Yeah. In that way, so I shouldn't be.
But you've worked with CDC in the past, right?
Yeah.
This not recently. Yeah. So let's just wrap up. Let me just to summarize this. During this time, which is really confusing, and there is a virus, we can see people have died from it, but everyone's not really sure. Are we underreacting, right? Or are we overreacting? So if
this I can comment on. To there's two parts here. Very understandably so. Now I'm taking the advantage of the rear mirror's view.
Yeah.
I feel that a lot about this pandemic and the public health response is overreacting.
Okay.
It was overreacting, and I'm not judging that. It's very understandably overreacting, but it looks very much like it. And a lot of people have, so again, when you're looking through the front window, it's really difficult to make decisions. It's a very different perspective. So when you're now with the advantage of hindsight, I would say it is time to correct some of the decisions that were made, and to kind of steer back a little bit. That's one. And many governments are doing this right now, and I feel it's high time to do so. Another part is that,
well, we need to wrap up, Jan. So maybe you could just say the other part.
Okay, fine, that's it.
Okay. Well, let's finish up. Perhaps you could just give really short answers to these last two questions, super short, right? When we're confused, right? At this time, when we're confused and we're seeing, yes, there's a virus, and then there's a reaction to the virus, and then, is the reaction not enough? Is it too much? While we're confused like this, just tell me very briefly, if you wanted to get reliable, unbiased information, what would be the best place to go? And you can just give me one or two places where we could go, which is most likely to tell you the truth.
For different for different places. In terms of technical scientific information, the NIH has a very useful, helpful. I'm thinking about the US now. The NIH has a very helpful resource. You can also just go to PubMed, a medical outlet, but you would need to be able to kind of know how to navigate this a little bit. There are kind of fast-track information systems that are quite reliable. Otherwise, I would tend to turn to those who are academic experts in the field, who have the advantage of not sitting in the hot seat.
Okay.
Of those who are in the media.
Give me a website. Like if somebody wanted to go somewhere where they can most trust what they're being told, just give me a website. Which website would we go to? You don't have to be, it doesn't have to be the perfect answer, but let's just give an example.
It depends on who you are and what you're looking for. I'm not aware of any one site.
Average Joe Blow member of the public wants to know what the hell's going on. Who is least likely to lie to them and to be straight up? Maybe it's hard.
I'm not aware. I don't have one place. I would share it if there was one place.
Okay, cool.
I'm getting information from many different ones. I would say, maybe this ties in with your question on the government. I have difficulty with those who make very bold statements, and particularly those that change from week to week.
Right.
So that to me is not reliable.
Okay.
So if you look at people making statements that are very bold and are not very substantiated, and they change every week, that is not reliable.
Okay, let's go to the last. Great. Let's go to the last question.
Go to those places where there's a team of people like NIH. Go to the CDC. Go to a place of people. Go to a site where there's a sincere attempt to really question, ask the right questions. Listen to those who ask more questions than they provide answers.
Sweet. I'm trying to contain time because I was just talking earlier with your wife, and I know that it's now 11 o'clock at night for you, right? And you've already been working a full day in a very busy pediatric center. So I want to really thank you for your time. Here's the last short question: Is there anywhere in particular that we should not be getting information? Like, where should we not be looking and believing what we're told? Is there anything that stands out as like obviously unreliable?
I would definitely look at the academic pages and less on the political pages. The less agenda there is,
Great.
the better.
Great. So listen to scientists.
This whole topic is so exploited for political and financial reasons. Whenever there's a huge financial interest behind it, whenever there's a huge political interest behind it, I would be more careful.
Thanks so much for taking the time. I'm partly containing us because I know that your wife will have comments. Right?
Difficult questions. I hope there's something useful.
Great, great. Thanks so much, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hang on. Let's just see how we stop. Okay.
This is